Most women don't realize they've made a serious financial mistake until it's already cost them years of progress, tens of thousands of dollars, or even their sense of independence. And the worst part? These mistakes don't feel like mistakes when you're making them. In fact, they often feel responsible, even smart. You're following advice you've been told your whole life. Be cautious. Be patient. Don't take risks. But somewhere along the way, caution quietly turns into missed opportunities. Silence turns into lost earnings, and playing it safe turns into falling behind. So many women wake up in their 40s, 50s, even 60s wondering, how did I end up here? Why didn't anyone warn me? But by then, it's harder to course correct. And it's not because you weren't trying. It's because no one told you the quiet traps, the small decisions that felt harmless but had massive long-term consequences. In this video, we're going to break the silence. I'm going to walk you through 5 costly financial mistakes that most women don't see coming until it's too late. These aren't about budgeting apps or skipping lattes. They're about power, mindset, and the habits that quietly shape your financial future without you even realizing it. So if you've ever wondered whether you're doing enough, saving enough, or if you're unknowingly setting yourself up for struggle later on, stay with me. Because once you understand these 5 patterns, you'll start seeing your finances through a completely different lens. And more importantly, you'll know exactly what to do next to take back control. Starting today. For years, women have been told that financial planning is about budgeting, cutting corners, clipping coupons, and playing defense. But one of the biggest financial traps women fall into is staying passive when it comes to long-term investing. They save, but they don't grow. They work hard, but their money sits still. And over time, that safe decision ends up being one of the most expensive. Many women rely on traditional savings accounts, assuming that if they just keep adding money over time, they'll be okay. But with inflation quietly eating away at that cash year after year, the truth is, it's not enough. What feels secure now can leave you vulnerable later. And often, this passive strategy isn't a choice. It's fear disguised as responsibility. Fear of risk. Fear of not knowing enough. Fear of making the wrong move and losing everything. So instead of learning the rules, many women just sit on the sidelines and hope for the best. But here's the hard truth. Not investing is still a decision. And it's a decision with consequences. Over the course of 20 or 30 years, that difference can be massive. A woman who invests steadily, even conservatively, can build a financial future with options, with breathing room. A woman who doesn't might find herself working longer than she planned, delaying retirement, or depending on others for support. This isn't about becoming a stock market expert. It's about understanding that letting your money sit still is a luxury you might not be able to afford. And the sooner you take that first step, whether it's learning the basics of index funds, opening a retirement account, or talking to a financial advisor, the sooner you shift from surviving to building. Because your future comfort doesn't come from what you save. It comes from what you grow. One of the most overlooked dangers in a woman's financial life isn't hidden in her investments or her spending. It's right inside her relationships. Specifically, it's the decision to hand over full financial control to a partner. For some, it happens gradually. One person pays the bills, manages the bank accounts, files the taxes. And before you know it, the other person is completely out of the loop. It feels like a division of labor, but in reality, it can quietly turn into a loss of power. The problem isn't just about trust. It's about access. When you don't know where the accounts are, how the money is managed, or what debts exist, you lose the ability to make informed decisions. Especially when life changes unexpectedly. Whether through divorce, death, or even illness, being left out of the financial conversation often means being left unprepared. And when that moment comes, it's not just emotionally overwhelming. It's financially devastating. There are countless stories of women who found themselves suddenly alone and realized they didn't know the passwords, the balances, or even which account still existed. Some didn't even know they had credit cards in their name until the debt collectors started calling. Others were shocked to find that retirement savings were far smaller than they'd assumed, or worse, already spent. And by the time they realized it, it was too late to go back. Being financially dependent, even in a loving relationship, is a risk. And it's one that far too many women take without fully understanding the cost. The real security doesn't come from trusting someone else to handle everything. It comes from being involved enough to handle it yourself if you ever need to. This doesn't mean taking over every detail. It means knowing where things stand, asking questions, and being an active participant in your own financial future. Because one of the most costly financial mistakes is waiting until you're forced to learn everything all at once. And by then, the damage has already been done. There's a quiet financial risk that many women carry for years without realizing it, until it turns into a crisis. It's the absence of a personal emergency fund. Not a joint account. Not a shared savings pool. But a fund that's yours, under your name, with money set aside that no one else can access, pause, or drain. It's not about being secretive. It's about being prepared. Life changes in an instant. A sudden job loss, an unexpected medical expense, a breakup, or even a partner's financial mistake can put everything at risk. And without a cushion of your own, you're forced to make desperate decisions under pressure. Some women stay in toxic relationships simply because they don't have the financial means to leave. Others go into debt because they didn't have a safety net when they needed it most. And almost all of them say the same thing later: "I never thought it would happen to me." But that's the problem. We assume stability until it disappears. And when it does, the cost of not having backup money goes far beyond dollars. It becomes a question of freedom, choices, and even survival. Having your own emergency fund isn't selfish. It's smart. It's the financial version of learning how to swim before the boat starts sinking. Ideally, you never have to use it. But if you do, it's the difference between panic and power. Even a small fund, just a few months of living expenses, can make all the difference. It buys you time to think, to breathe, and to act without fear. And most importantly, it reminds you that your financial safety should never depend entirely on someone else's decisions. If you're listening to this and you don't have an emergency fund yet, this isn't about blame. It's about starting now. Because once things fall apart, it's much harder to build something stable in the middle of the storm. There's one mistake many women make, not because they're careless, but because they've been told to be grateful. It's undervaluing their own work, both in the workplace and at home. Whether it's negotiating a salary, managing the household, or running a small side business, too many women accept less than they deserve, thinking it's normal or even polite. But over time, this quiet habit chips away at long-term financial stability in ways that aren't always obvious. It starts small. Maybe you didn't push for a raise because you didn't want to come off as difficult. Or you agreed to unpaid responsibilities that no one else wanted. Or you chose to stay home and raise children, an incredibly valuable job, without ever setting up protections for yourself like retirement savings or spousal contributions. And while those choices might feel right in the moment, the long-term consequences are often hidden until years later. By the time retirement rolls around, the wage gap has turned into a savings gap. The missed promotions have become missed opportunities. And the invisible labor, the emotional, mental, and physical work that women do every day, has left them with little to show for it financially. The result? Many women find themselves financially dependent, underprepared, and overwhelmed. This isn't just about money. It's about value. When you learn to advocate for yourself, at the bank, at the negotiation table, even in conversations with your partner, you start to build a life that reflects your true worth. And that changes everything. It's not selfish to want fair compensation. It's not greedy to expect your work, paid or unpaid, to be acknowledged. It's smart. And it's necessary if you want to stay secure in the long run. So if you've spent years putting everyone else first, this is your reminder. Your time, your work, and your energy have value. Don't let anyone, including yourself, treat them like they don't. One of the most overlooked financial pitfalls is not understanding how life transitions, like divorce, widowhood, or even adult children moving back in, can completely reshape a woman's financial future. Many women assume that if things are going fine now, they'll stay that way. But when life changes suddenly, the cracks in the foundation show up fast. And for too many, it's only then, when emotions are high and options feel limited, that they realize how unprepared they really are. Let's talk about divorce, for example. Countless women sign settlements they don't fully understand just to get it over with. They might give up retirement accounts in exchange for keeping the house, only to find themselves asset-rich but cash-poor. Or they assume alimony will last forever, not realizing that new legislation in some states is capping or even eliminating it. And if you're widowed, you might think your spouse's pension or social security will automatically roll over to you. But that's only true under certain conditions. Miss the fine print, and you could be left with less than half of what you expected. Then there's the quiet financial pressure of adult children moving back home. Many women want to help, and do so gladly, but end up spending their retirement funds, taking on new debt, or postponing retirement entirely just to keep things afloat. And because it happens gradually, it often doesn't feel like a financial emergency. Until it is. These life shifts don't just bring emotional stress. They demand a financial strategy. And yet, most women don't talk about them, plan for them, or even realize what's at stake until it's already happening. But you can change that. Start by getting informed. Review your retirement accounts. Know your rights if your marriage ends. Talk to a financial advisor who understands your unique situation, not just generic money advice. Because when life shifts, and it will, you don't want to be left scrambling. You want to be ready. Looking back at these 5 financial missteps, one thing becomes painfully clear. Most women don't fall into financial traps because they're careless. They fall in because no one warned them. Because we're told to focus on family, to trust the process, to be grateful for what we have. But gratitude isn't a financial plan. And silence isn't a strategy. The truth is, many women don't realize what's missing until something goes wrong. Until the alimony stops. Until the emergency hits. Until the house becomes a burden and the savings aren't enough. By then, the options are fewer, the costs are higher, and the regrets come faster than solutions. But it doesn't have to be that way. Right now you still have time. Time to look at your money without fear. Time to ask questions that no one else is asking. Time to build a future that isn't built on assumptions, but on awareness. And if you've already made 1 or 2 of these mistakes, don't panic. It's never too late to pivot. Knowledge is leverage, and now you have it. So before another year slips by, sit down with your numbers. Have the hard conversations. Build a plan that protects you, not just your loved ones. Because your financial security isn't selfish, it's necessary. And the best time to protect your future is before it starts falling apart. Thanks for spending this time with us. If this video opened your eyes or made you think differently about your financial future, leave a comment below and share what stood out to you most. Your story could be the exact thing another woman needs to hear today. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. We've got more empowering content coming your way, because you deserve to be informed, prepared, and fully in control of what comes next.